Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with our Dominator, who is now level 36. It's only been a little while since the last time I recorded, because I was listening to something on YouTube, and I thought this sounds like something we could talk about. And then I heard something else on YouTube, and I'm like, I definitely want to talk about that. And so we're going to talk today about two things: rage quitting campaigns and have you ever done it, and what, like, the story was GM rulings that have made you rage quit. And it was really kind of silly because half the stories were like, well, I didn't actually quit, but I thought about it. And there was really only one that I wanted to talk about. The others were, kind of silly. Um, but I did want to talk about that one. And then the other thing I want to talk about today is going to be um, splitting the party, because there is a misconception out there that I was listening to on, I can't remember which D&D or role playing game podcast, where they were talking about not splitting the party and why you don't want to do it, and they're completely wrong about why. And so I do want to talk about that. So we're going to talk today about rage quitting and splitting the party, and maybe some other things. But we have our Dominator. He's level 36, 3.8 million XP earned, 700,000 go to get to the next level. I'm working on trying to get some story arc missions from Cadeo Kestrel, because I was trying to work on one of the other guys, Anton Sampson or something. Yeah, this guy. And I realized, yeah, he must be a level 35 contact, because I was getting +0 missions when I'm supposed to be in +1 missions. So we're working on Cadeo Kestrel, and we're going to save the Council from the Circle of Thorns. One of the things I found out about this character is that this possess power, apparently the Nemesis are very resistant to it, because I was using it on them, and what I didn't realize is, like, I was using it on them, my wolf was attacking, I was, attacking them with other things. They were attacking my wolf, they were attacking me, and it took me a little while to register it, and I'm like, I guess I missed. Sometimes you miss with the power, but then I finally realized, no, I'm not missing. I checked and the two hit, 93% chance to hit, and you rolled a 35. I hit, and then they just shoot me back. So Nemesis seem to be immune to possess, which means I'm going to have to alter my normal program of start with possess and then hold, because possess wasn't doing anything, it was just aggroing them. So that's going to be an interesting challenge when we fight Nemesis again. So let's start by talking about rage quitting. So the question was, and I leave this question to you folks, have you ever decided to rage quit a campaign because of a single ruling or a single decision the GM has made? I have personally never quit any campaign, and I've certainly never rage quit. And so I haven't personally done that. I haven't. I have only ever once seen someone leave a campaign for a single ruling, and it was a campaign before it had started. And basically saying, I don't even think it was rage quit, right? Just, nah, this doesn't sound for me. That's literally what he said, and that was the end of it, right? It didn't, like, it wasn't a rage quit. And so, yeah, I've actually personally never seen this. Fortunately, I've been with good enough GMs, and I hope I've been a good enough GM that people haven't generally felt like quitting at all, let alone rage quitting. I wish this wolf didn't have to be quite so close to aggro, because it puts me closer in range than I want to be, and potentially aggroing ads on the sides, but he just won't aggro unless I get within like 15 feet of the enemy, even though a lot of my attacks have 60 or 70 foot range, which is really kind of annoying, actually. So we have 4 people to rescue in 90 minutes. So the story was that the GM apparently made an incorrect ruling, but I don't know that you rage quit over an incorrect ruling. So there was apparently some sort of a mage that this character had. I think it was a bard, I can't remember. And he was fighting a villain that had something called the Mage Slayer as a feat. And I guess this feat allows a character that has it to, if they're in melee range, when a magic user uses their spell, they can make a reaction to take an attack of opportunity against the mage, essentially. Now, this doesn't seem problematic to me at all, because in 3rd edition D&D, which I played a lot of on Neverwinter Nights, if a mage was standing next to you when they cast a spell, you got an automatic attack of opportunity against the mage, right? That's just the way 3rd edition worked. And so probably as a player, I wouldn't have seen anything wrong with this. I remember, and in 3rd edition, if you took damage, I think, don't quote me on this because this was all done automatically in Neverwinter Nights, so I don't remember the actual rule. But it seemed like at least in Neverwinter Nights, if you took damage if you started casting a spell, so I'm standing next to a wolf that's attacking me, right? This thing is hostile. And I start casting Magic Missile, and the character starts to animate, and you start saying the magic words, the wolf immediately attacks you. These little words, attack of opportunity, go above its head, right? So it's making an attack of opportunity. If that wolf hit me and did damage, that spell got interrupted, and you'd have to start it over again. I don't think you lost the spell slot, but it interrupted the cast, right? So this kind of thing is kind of normal to me, and I don't particularly see anything wrong with it. Now, apparently the actual 5th edition rules, the GM was a little incorrect. It allows the mage to get their spell off first, and then the Mage Slayer gets to take the reaction to retaliate. And so if the GM had done it properly, the GM admitted, what would probably have happened is that the wizard or the bard or whoever would have killed the Mage Slayer character, and then would not have taken the attack of opportunity back, because it happens, I guess the reaction goes off afterwards. So if I do enough damage to you as a mage to kill you, then it doesn't matter that you're the Mage Slayer. But I guess the GM didn't realize it. He read that it was a reaction. He assumed that it goes off first, which is what happens with most reactions. They go off instantly. There's almost like they don't take physical time to do. They just instantly happen when the condition occurs in D&D. And so unless it says something otherwise. And so, and by the way, I do want to say one of the things I love about this character is all the really annoying enemies like the spectral demons, I can utterly negate them. I can either turn them against my enemies, or I can just hold them and they can't do anything, which is super fun. So anyway, apparently the mage starts the cast, and the GM says, all right, he has the mage. Your enemy has the Mage Slayer trait, and you're standing right next to him, so he's going to take an attack of opportunity, and he's going to attack you. And then the GM said, unfortunately, this was done in Fantasy Grounds, and so it's all automated, right? So he rolls, and I guess, I don't know if he was rolling in front of the screen or not. What he said was, I rolled a nat 20, and I should have just said, oh, he misses. When I saw that nat 20, I should have overruled it. And I didn't. And then I rolled the damage in Fantasy Grounds, and it just automatically applied, and it killed the guy, right? It dropped him below 0 hit points. Now, I don't know if I guess he went into death saves. I don't think it instant killed him. Maybe it did. I don't know how many hit points the character had, because I don't know how high level this party was. But he said, yeah, I would have left him with 1 hit point if it hadn't been Fantasy Grounds and it hadn't been automated, right? Like, so in other words, if I had been sitting there at the table, I would have either overruled the 20 and said he missed, or I would have just left him with 1 hit point so that this didn't kill him and his spell could go off. But because it was being done in Fantasy Grounds, he said, yeah, unfortunately, the actual die rolls killed this guy's character. And what the GM is saying is, well, I guess I should have overruled the die rolls, right? Or not let them see the real die rolls because I didn't want to kill the character. But the character died. And then the player, they were playing, remember, online, he just disconnected. And they never saw him again. Now, the GM said I feel bad about this for multiple reasons. The main reason is when I went and looked at Mage Slayer afterwards, I realized I played it wrong. Well, guys, that happens, you know, and it's still the case that you could. Did I feel like I missed a hostage over here. It's still the case that your character could die to die rolls. And, yeah, right there. And so, okay, first of all, would you rage quit over that? I certainly wouldn't. But second of all, and this is the interesting part, right? What the GM is saying is, gosh, I should have overruled that stuff. And my feeling is, assuming you played Mage Slayer correctly and the guy actually died to random rolls, yeah, I don't believe in overruling that stuff. I think that, it's one thing I did do it with a new player when we started our campaign, and I hit her with enough damage to take her out. I don't know if it was enough damage to take her out. I rolled really high with physical dice. This is before we were using Foundry. I rolled really high with physical dice, looked at the numbers, and just said, nah, I'm going to use the average rolls, right? I didn't do anything else. It's a perfectly acceptable option for the GM to just use the average rolls and in D&D. And in fact, a lot of GMs will suggest doing that so that you don't have to, especially if once enemies are rolling a lot of dice, like if the enemy's rolling 6 dice 6 or something, just take the average roll, which would be, I don't know, 21 or something like that, and just say you take 21 damage, and just do that every time. Now, a lot of GMs don't like to do that because it means that the players know the exact number of damage they're going to take, and it becomes predictable if you're using the same attack multiple times in a game or in a battle. And I normally roll the dice because I like rolling dice, right? I actually bought, and I've said this before, I actually bought new dice to play D&D with, and I'm kind of disappointed that we moved completely to Foundry because I haven't had a chance to use my dice, right? Which is annoying because I spent a lot of money on those metal dice. I thought it was going to be fun and cool to use them, and now I have no reason to use them. So, oh, I held the wrong guy. I was meant to hold this guy because the other guy is confused. So, I rolled the dice, looked at the numbers, and said, I'll just use the average rolls. Right? Nobody knows I did that, and the main reason I did it was I didn't think she would die, right? But I didn't want to put down at the beginning of what was probably going to be a pretty tough battle, the new player who doesn't know what to do. It was fairly early in the campaign. But other than that, and one or two other times when, I fudged the DC of a skill roll because I kind of needed them to succeed at the skill. Other than that, I pretty much let the dice fall where they may, right? And I let them succeed or fail on the die rolls. And in Savage Worlds, I completely roll the dice in front of them. So if somebody takes a lot of damage, they take a lot of damage. I don't worry about it. Right? And especially now in our Savage Worlds game, they've pretty much finished the Horror at Headstone Hill main plot point campaign. So if they die now, I don't feel bad, right? We finished the campaign. They saw the ending of the campaign. What we're doing now is like the dessert. We've had the meal, right? It's the icing on the cake. They don't have to live through all of it. So we'll see. There are some very hard encounters coming in Deadlands, and if they die, they die. Hopefully they won't rage quit. We've been together long enough that they certainly know I'm not trying to kill their characters, because if I were, they would have died a long time ago. I mean, we've been playing Deadlands for a year and a half, and we played D&D together for 2.5 years before that. So it's about 4 years of me GMing for them. What happened to the wolf? Will you come on up here? You are so stupid. Get up here. We've been playing D&D for 4 years, and in all that time, only 2 characters have died. And only maybe 3 other times has a character gotten incapacitated and made the Deadlands equivalent of death saves or D&D death saves. Hang on, let me go up the stairs here and make sure there's nobody upstairs. There usually isn't, but just got to double check. So my feeling on this is the GM was not required or responsible for anything other than ruling correctly. They made an honest mistake on the rules, believing that the reaction worked the way they had it work, and then finding out later, oops, I made a mistake. Okay, you feel bad about it. But how many times has that GM probably made a ruling that was in favor of the player character? So let's think about, for instance, and I mentioned this in my last episode, in the final battle of the Headstone Hill campaign, I messed up two things. Right, one of the things I messed up was I thought that the sleep spell, when you fall asleep, you can try to make a vigor roll to wake up if somebody tries to shake you or something like that. And I had it be an opposed roll against the original roll the of the tree, right? She rolled a 10, the mother tree. And so the target number became a 10, and because it was a raise, it was a -2. So like the guy had no chance of waking up. And so we took a break, and when we came back from it, we're still in the middle of the battle. We took a break. When we came back from the break, the player whose character was asleep said, "Is that really the way this is played? Because it's hard to tell in the rules the way it's written." And she said, "I'm trying to decide whether to run this or D&D with my daughter, and which one I do. The answer is partly going to, that's partly going to depend on the answer to this, because I guess she felt like it's one of these things where if the enemy rolls high enough, you just are stuck sleeping and you can't get out, and that seems a little ridiculous." And so we were talking about it as the others came back, and one of the other guys said, "I think the way it works is if you either make an opposed roll or a raise gives you a minus to the target number of 4. And since this gives you a minus, doesn't it work against the target number of 4? And then he quoted a couple of other spells where you actually do work against the opponent's roll, and there aren't penalties, but a raise does something different. And I said, "Gee, I think you're right." I looked at the ruling. I looked at the rules quickly, and I said, "I think you're right. Let's just use target number 4. Sorry, I made a mistake." Right. So that was a mistake that went against, you could say, quote unquote, in the monster's favor and against the player characters. But in that same encounter, that same character cast the smite spell, which gives +4 damage on a raise, and he got a raise with it. It does +4 damage. Oops. I better dominate this guy. It does +4 damage to on every attack, right? But his special effect, his trapping of that power, is that that like fire surrounds the bullets. So I kind of said, okay, this makes them fire attacks, and the trees were vulnerable to fire. So it's doing an extra +4 damage. So that's doing +8 damage. For every one of their attacks, I said you do they did the +4 damage. This guy actually gets another +4 damage because it's vulnerable to fire. And they were all like, hey, this is great. And they were taking out replicants left and right. Now, they were rolling a lot of damage anyway, and the replicants probably would have died anyway. But they did more damage to the mother tree than they were supposed to, because the mother tree takes half damage from bullets. But because I was having this act instead of like a bullet attack, like a fire attack, she was taking full damage +4. Never mind the plus for the smite, right? That was over and above that. And so that was in their favor. That was a mistake, right? The trapping is the effect that it looks like when the smite power triggers, but all the smite power gives you is 4 extra damage. Now we got to find the last person. And one of the things that has happened in this game the last few times I've played it is I have several times been unable to finish missions, and I can abandon this one, but I can't auto-complete it because I just auto-completed a Devouring Earth hunt mission in Eden, which I absolutely didn't want to do. Find 35 Devouring Earth in Eden, yuck. So we won't be able to auto-complete this if it's bugged. So I guess I got to crawl through every pixel of this map to find the last hostage. The other thing I could do is just take a different mission and let the time run out. But let's see if we can find the last hostage here. Yeah, so anyway, as a GM, you make mistakes, and roughly half the time, you make mistakes that favor the players, and half the time you make mistakes that disadvantage the players. And it's not on purpose, right? It's just that by random luck, sometimes your ruling is going to be good for the players, and sometimes it's going to be bad for them. This guy who rage quit, I don't like. It doesn't even seem like he argued you aren't doing the rule right. It's just that when his character died, he was like, "Bleep you," and disconnected. So yeah, I've never seen that. Right? Like I said, the only time I've ever seen anybody nope out of a campaign was the Rome game, and that was simply the person who did something in their background that didn't quite fit. And I said, "Well, you can fit it in this way," and he was like, "This is not the campaign for me," and he quit. And okay, I don't know if that counts as a rage quit, but that's the only time I've ever seen it where somebody just quits. Oh, we didn't go through the doors here. I thought this was just a dead end. Where somebody just quits and you never see them again. And he was so opposed to whatever it was that he didn't like about my setting rules. It wasn't the D&D rules, right? It was just the setting, the background information. It was so bad that even though he played Candlekeep Mysteries with us, with my friend GMing, when my best friend said to him, "Would you like to come to Rome with us? It's pretty fun," he didn't answer. He said, "I'll think about it." And then, over Discord, he said, "No thanks." So I don't know what happened. I'll probably never know what happened. But that's the only time I know of somebody rage quitting. But I would say, guys, don't rage quit because your character dies. That's silly. Just make up a new character. And one of the things that's the most fun thing to do in a role-playing game is inventing characters. Like one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, if you die, so what? Just make up a new character. If the character dies, just make up a new character. Who cares? See, I'm really attached to this character. Well, you'll be attached to the new one too. Just make up a new one, and you'll have fun. Right? The new girl, right? Her character died in Deadlands, and she did not want her character to die, and she was pretty unhappy about it, I think. However, she made up a ranger, and that ranger is kind of fun now, and she's got to do some pretty cool things because she's basically the highest law in the state of Wyoming since she's a Wyoming ranger, unless you go to the governor or something. So the local law, like the local corrupt marshal, has to listen to her. And even some of the outlaws have to listen to her, because if they don't, she can arrest them. And you can't necessarily kill a Wyoming ranger, and now the other rangers are going to come after you too. Like, she's got some real pull, and I think she's enjoying that. And it's making her character different from the other one in a way that I think she's really happy about. So I don't know. Like at one point, the one player was like, "I want to resurrect Jay, the old character. Like when my character has high enough blessed abilities, blessed powers, you have to be legendary or whatever to do it, or heroic. But she needs 30 power points and she only has 25, whatever. So she said I have to get the 20th, the 30th power point, and then take the power. So it's going to be several advances, and I really, really want to do this. And then they said to the new girl, "Are you going to switch to her, or are you going to stick with your ranger?" And she said, "I don't really know. I think I'll stick with the ranger." Right. So even though she liked the character and she was initially unhappy that character died, right? It turns out that, whoops, I double clicked there. It turns out that she likes the new character better now. Now that she's played it for a few sessions, for a while now, right? 12 or 13 sessions in Headstone Hill and gotten used to it, and she's played it about an equal number of sessions as with the other character. She's gotten used to that character now, and she's more comfortable with that character now. Oh, we got to do the security chief. So this is going to be another street hunt mission. So we're going to have to take this and find another contact so that we don't have to do another street hunt mission. So let's see, who can we do? Steve Sheridan, I think, is too low of a level. Let me pause here and just check. One of the things I don't like about Founders Falls in Brickstown is I'm level 30 for so long. I do all the contacts, and I never remember which ones are 30 to 35 and which are 35 to 40. So let me just check who's the right contact, and I'll bring you guys back. Well, according to the wiki, Anton Sampson, who I've been working here, actually does give level 35 to 40 story arcs, so let's try him. Let's take a look. What's the mission say? It is level 36 now, so it should be alright. This is another mission to rescue hostages over in Independence Port this time. So we'll just head over there and do it. So, so yeah, when it comes to like quitting campaigns and stuff, first I would say, guys, just don't quit a campaign just because your character dies. Quit a campaign because the GM is being unfair. The GM who did the Mage Slayer thing was not trying to be unfair. He made a mistake in the ruling, and he admitted that. And he actually said he would have fudged the dice if he hadn't been using Fantasy Grounds and it hadn't been all automated. So it doesn't sound like he was a bad GM. It sounds like he's a pretty good GM. Now, obviously, I did say, don't quit because your character dies. Obviously, if you're not having any fun, it's a good reason to quit a campaign. But I don't think you should quit a campaign just because your character dies. And now you might say, well, I don't have any fun if my character dies. I would say revise your opinion, because as I've said, there can be some pretty interesting things that happen when characters die and somebody makes up a new character, and it's just all part of the story. Right? Characters die in lots of stories, like Lord of the Rings, right? Boromir dies and that kind of stuff, and Gandalf falls and so on, and hopefully that didn't spoilerize it too much for people, but those stories are the better for those deaths, not worse. And see, watch this. Didn't work. It totally did not work on him. So yeah, I don't know. Post your comments. Have you ever rage quit a campaign, and what for? Did you ever rage quit because your character died? I mean, the one guy, the bad Rob, who would throw his character sheet across the room and champions and say, "Fine, let him die. See if I care." Never actually rage quit a session, let alone the game. Right? He would throw a tantrum, but he never went anywhere, and he stayed and kept playing. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was splitting the party. So we'll talk about that in this mission. I can't remember which show I was watching where they were talking about splitting the party. And they said, well, we all know why. Wow. Ouch. This is going to be rough. They said, we all know why they say you shouldn't split the party. Right? And what they said was it's because when you split the party, I can't remember who was talking about this. He said, go ahead and let the players split the party. It's not that big of a deal. All that happens when you split the party, and the reason people say you shouldn't do it is because now you have to split the table time between two groups of players, right? So my character is in one place and your character is in another place, and now the GM has to say, okay, Scrapper, it's your turn, and now so-and-so, it's your turn, and I have to sit there and watch while you play, and you have to sit there and watch while I play, and that's not really a lot of fun for people, and so that's why they say not to split the party. But hey, look, they said there are lots of elegant ways and really good ways as a GM, right? What the person basically said is GMs level up your skill. Oh, that's right, that doesn't work. GMs level up your skill, right? Become a better GM and learn how to deal with a split party so that you give attention to... Where is the wolf? Is he aggroing somebody else? Yes, he's an idiot. So that you can give equal attention to both sides and that sort of thing. In other words, be a better GM, and splitting the party won't matter. The incorrect assumption here is the reason everybody says don't split the party is because it makes it awkward at the table to keep splitting the concentration, right? Whose focus the session is about between different characters. That is not the reason not to split the party. I'm going to ask you to pause it here and say out loud why you don't split the party in D&D, Champions, or any other game. And then unpause it. And when you come back, I'm going to tell you why you never split the party. Go ahead and pause it. And the dog here is trying to tell us. He's barking, trying to tell you why. You don't split the party, you dummy. He went downstairs. Why don't you split the party? Why do you never split the party? It has nothing to do with how much time it takes to toggle between different groups. That can be awkward, and if it goes on for too long, yes, it can become a problem. Sure. But that's not the reason for the rule, don't split the party. The reason not to split the party is because you can die. In a game where death is on the table, or get captured in a game like Champions and defeated. Okay? And the reason is that when the module makers of a module or your GM is inventing encounters and challenges for you to overcome, whether it's traps, whether it's a social conflict, whether it's a dramatic task, whether it's a skill challenge or actual combat, the GM always has in mind, unless they've written a party split into the adventure, they always have in mind that the entire party will be together. So we're going to do the one that's not marked, so I remember. Just like this, right? When you walk into a City of Heroes mission with 8 characters, and it does an 8-man spawn in the encounter area, right? It assumes all 8 characters are going to be together. If you split your team, and one team does this elevator, and the other team does the other elevator, you're going to have 4 people facing an 8-man spawn, and you're going to die, or faceplant, or whatever. This actually happened in my City of Heroes game where we were owning a mission. It was before there were difficulty settings. And I've told this story before. Me and a scrapper named Fiend Hunter, and I was playing with my character who's the martial arts reflex scrapper. Me and my that scrapper were on the team with 6 other characters. Ugh, I'm stupid. I keep doing that by reflex. It doesn't work. We were on the team with 6 other characters. I think it was a defender, a controller, and 4 blasters. Might have been a defender, 2 controllers, and 3 blasters. But it was a bunch of ranged glass cannon characters who have no defenses, and us 2 scrappers. And we were cruising along pretty easily. And we came to a fork, right? One of these square things in one of the large warehouses. Oh, I keep doing it! Stop it. We came to a fork. And there were spawns on either side, right? And these are spawns for an 8-person team. And we said, hey, this has been easy enough, right? Fiend Hunter and I said, we'll take the right, you guys take the left. Now there's 6 of them. For an 8-person spawn, you can generally do that. They said, are you guys sure? Just the 2 of you? And we said, not only can we do it, we'll do it faster. We bet them. I can't remember what we bet, influence or something. And so we went right, they went left, and that entire group wiped. We survived, right? And I wasn't paying attention. I'm attacking and fighting things, scrapper lock, right? So I targeted one boss, he targeted the other one. I dove in, boom, 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 boom. He's attacking the other one. All of a sudden, in group chat, I hear that did it, and he goes, oh, bleep. And I look up, and in the team thing here, everybody's red but me and him, and we're both, yellow to green, like light green. And so I just quickly typed, you go help them. And he was like, okay, and he left. And he went, they weren't all gone, but they were in the red, and two or three of them were dead. And the other 3 were dying. So he went and helped them. He got there too late. They all died. He took their whole spawn. I took our whole spawn. Those guys were amazed that as a scrapper, we could basically solo. It wasn't an 8-man spawn by that point because some of them had been defeated, but the equivalent of a 4 or 5-man spawn. That's why you don't split the party. Because the game, the module, or the GM assumed you were going to all be together. So they looked in D&D, and you're in a party of 4, and the challenge rating 10 thing for a group of 4 is this monster, right? A demi-lich, let's say. So the GM puts a demi-lich and a couple of servants in there. Figures that'll be a pretty good fight. And you dummies split the party, and only 2 of you walk into that room. And the other 2 are back in town doing something. The 2 who walked into that room are going to die. Because the GM expected the whole party to come in there. Right? That's why you don't split the party. Or the GM puts in a trap, and you got an Aarakocra in your group. So what the GM has decided, has planned, is to give you a puzzle where you have to get over some sort of a pit or something. Only the Aarakocra can do it. He's going to have to fly you one at a time. And maybe there's some sort of a crisis that makes it important for him to figure out how to do this correctly. And the Aarakocra's not there. And now you can't get across the chasm. That's why you don't split the party. Because the GM wrote the campaign assuming you were all going to be... It's Savage Worlds. Dramatic task. You're going to need to collect 15 tokens in 3 rounds. That's 5 tokens a round. If there are 4 of you, it's hard, but not too bad. Right? Not too bad. If there are only 2 of you, how the heck are 2 of you going to get 15 tokens in 3 rounds? You're going to need a lot of raises. Right? And maybe the guys with the most appropriate skills aren't there. The reason you don't split the party is because it's very easy to die when you do that. The GM didn't expect it. The module writer didn't expect it. They expected the whole posse to be there in Deadlands. The whole one. All of you together. And so when the Glom comes out of the river in Blood Drive to attack, and it has a 17 toughness and is the hardy trait where it can't take more than 1 wound at a time, and it can take up to 5 wounds, and it makes 4 attacks per round because it has multiple arms and all the rest of it. And there's just 2 of you there. Yeah, you're all going to die. You're both going to die. And now the other 2, whatever they're doing, fighting some ghosts in another canyon, they're going to die too. Because both of those encounters were for 4 people. And you're trying to do them 2 by 2 or 1 by 3. It's a very easy way for characters to die. Now you could say, well, GM, improvise it. Well, sometimes, some GMs are inexperienced. Why do I keep doing it? It's just a reflex. Some GMs are inexperienced, aren't sure how to do it. Some GMs struggle to do it. Sometimes you just don't realize, or you're just not that fast thinking on your feet. Sometimes it's really hard to do that improvisation, right? Because, in D&D, it might be fairly easy because you can just go, okay, well, I'll give the monster half the hit points. But in Savage Worlds, who's shooting me? But in Savage Worlds, it might be an extra. The extra might not have, it only take 1 wound, right? And the extra might only have D8 fighting, not that big of a deal. But you triple explode on the dice. What are you doing? Wolf, come here. What are you doing? Who's shooting him? Is it a sniper? I guess there's a sniper up there. Yeah, over there. Okay. We're just going to have to take hits, I guess, because... Can I teleport that guy over here? Yeah. Oh! Took me too long. Faceplant! Yeah, so don't split the party, guys. That faceplant I had wasn't from a party split, but that's what happens when you split the party, right? You go by yourself somewhere, you get isolated, the GM didn't expect you to do it, and all of a sudden, the bleep hits the fan, right? And now you're screwed, because the GM has to try to think on his feet and see if he can find a way to fudge it to help you, right? And if you have a GM who's going to be like, dude, I'm not fudging, like me, I'm not going to help you. You shouldn't have split the party. If you're going to do something, I will help players from incredible bad luck that's through no fault of their own, right? But when my party started fireballing in the Shrine of the Kuatoa and woke the whole base up, I did nothing to help them because that was their own darn fault. They talked about not doing that, right? They made sure to plan not to do that, and then as soon as combat started, they started blasting fireballs down the hall. And they alerted the whole base. And I'm like, I'm not going to help you now because you're being stupid. You talked about this for an hour. You agreed not to alert the base, not to use things like fireball. And as soon as combat started, both the cleric and the sorcerer started launching fireballs long range at enemies down the hall and waking up everybody else. And now the whole base came after them, and I had no sympathy because what they were doing was stupid. It was callous, it was overconfident, and they deserved to die in that dungeon. Now, they didn't die, but they deserved it. Right? And so I would not have helped them at all. I did not help them at all. And I did everything I could to have those Kuo-toa be smart and deadly because they deserved it. You're doing something stupid, right? Now, on the other hand, if they're just being unlucky, then I'm not gonna be quite so rough because it's not this is happening through no fault of your own. But if you're going to do something stupid like I just did, I knew there was a sniper coming. Like, well, I'll fight 2 snipers at once. No, that was dumb. I should have stayed on the floor and teleported him down. I deserved to faceplant there. Can't be mad at the devs. I was stupid. Right? So, if you split the party, knowing that doing that is going to make you susceptible to the fact that the encounters were designed for a group of 4 and you're only a group of 2 or 1 or 3, then, whatever happens to you, you deserve. All right, let's take this guy and teleport him down, if I can see him. Yeah, bring him down. Oh, he interrupted me. I hate these guys. I really hate them. I should put stealth on, I guess. Yeah, the wolf split the party, and I couldn't hit that guy. All right, let's see if I can... Get over here, wolf. Stop it. So one thing about these snipers is you can't actually pull them. You have to do something like a teleport. I'm not worried about what the wolf is doing. No, I can't get him. So I don't know what I'm going to have to... I don't know what I'm going to do here. Because he's not gettable that way. Is there another way up? Maybe I can force him to aggro to the little guys. The wolf's going to get himself killed. Where is he? Where is the sniper? Here. Can you aggro to them? Maybe? I just have to use every single inspiration here because I can't get to him without dealing with these guys. And there's no way for me to send the wolf at him either. And I keep hitting the thing that doesn't work. The sad part is I have a snipe too, but I can't, from here, I cannot hit him. They will interrupt me. Alright, now we can get this jerk. Once I hold him, he's done. Right? That's it. He's done. But you got to get the hold off on him. And it's very short range. Or relatively short range. So yeah, the whole point of not splitting the party is to keep yourself from dying by accident, right? From the GM killing you by accident because they did not expect you to break up the party here, and there were supposed to be 4 of you. And, for example, if I make up an encounter that's like, sometimes the encounter will say, 2 villains plus 1 extra per party member. Okay, in that case, you can maybe do it, right? 2 villains plus 2. But if the encounter is with a wild card, well, I can't necessarily make that a lot easier. And if the wild card just aces, you could die. And there isn't anybody to back you up, to help you, to force a healing elixir down your throat, or to cast a spell, or to use the healing skill on you, and then you just die. Right? Or the challenge, like there's a lock you have to pick, and the guy with the thievery doesn't come with you. So now the lock is unpickable and you can't get through it. What am I supposed to do as a GM? Just say, oh, the door's not locked because the guy with the lockpicking didn't come with you? As a GM, I say, no, don't split the party. Right? If you do that, you have to acknowledge the fact that you are making it artificially harder on yourself than it needs to be. And as a consequence, your character could die or take a very serious negative consequence. That's why you don't split the party. It's not because it's harder for the GM to focus the spotlight on different people. That's not why. Yes, it can be, and yes, it's easier if everybody just stays in one place. But the reason you don't split the party isn't that. The reason you don't split the party is because then your characters don't have the backup that the GM or the module writers expected them to have. And it's a good way for characters to die. So I've saved all the hostages. So this is one of these secret defeat all missions, right? Because the hostages were saved, but we had to defeat everybody anyway. All right. I think that's good, folks. We talked about 2 different things. This was our level 36 experience, and you even got to see me faceplant. I always assume you guys enjoy that. Maybe I'm wrong. Enjoy watching me faceplant because still no story arc. Ugh. I have the feeling I'm going to be questing after story arcs for like the entire level 36 until I get one. I assume you guys like to see me faceplant because it almost never happens, and you get to see me screw up. And I screw up in very small ways a lot of times in City of Heroes, but I usually don't screw up enough for the character to faceplant. It's pretty rare, right? Maybe once every 10 videos I screw up enough for a character to faceplant, even less if it's not somebody with who's fragile like a Dominator. So I assume you guys get a kick out of seeing me screw up, but maybe not. But anyway, you got to see me faceplant with this character at level 36, and you got to see the level 36 gameplay. I still haven't really enhanced these powers that I put sockets on because I just haven't had a chance to do the inventions. But hopefully by the next time you see me at level 37, they will have been all advanced up. Also, for the SOs we still have, there aren't that many of them, but we still have a handful of SOs. Got a couple over here and a couple over here and a couple over here. I'm going to upgrade those at level 37 to level 40. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.